Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm Andy RC and today I'm going to be checking out the King Kong Tiny 6. This is a brushed tiny whoop style quadcopter with a built-in VTX and camera. It's a 16 channel VTX. And previously on the channel I checked out the King Kong Tiny 7 and I really liked it, and they offered to send me the Tiny 6 at the same time, but I thought no, they're going to be too similar. But a few people in the comments were saying that they thought the Tiny 6 was better than the Tiny 7, so I got it in. But I'll tell you straight away, I honestly can't tell much difference between the 6 and the 7. I think the 6 is slightly more stable, and I think the 6mm motors, it's a slightly better form factor for the tiny whoop style of aircraft, but other than that they were very similar. Now the reason that I wanted to check this one out is it's an RTF, so you can see it comes with a Futaba style transmitter. Now this is a rebranded Futaba transmitter and I'll talk more about that a bit later, but it's a S-bus transmitter. It's got proper gimbals and it comes in mode 2, but you can see here I have converted it to mode 1 and more on that later. But it's just £80. I think it's just £20 more than the bind and fly version, so I thought that was pretty good considering when we were building original tiny whoops, you know, sticking a camera on that ourselves, then it was coming to about £120. So £80 for all this with all these batteries, etc. I think that is really good. I have modified the transmitter and like I say, I'll talk about that more a bit later. But yeah, this is the Tiny 6 here, same form factor, but this one has got a Futaba receiver in there. So this is the antenna for the receiver, and then this is the antenna for the 25mW VTX. So the VTX is built in to this SP Racing F3 flight controller, and then the motors just have a 1.25 pitch JST connector there, and also the power for the battery is also 1.25 pitch. So we have of course got these 5 batteries here, so they are 250 milliamp, unlike the Tiny 7 which has a bigger battery. Now it weighs 21 grams without the battery and it weighs 27.5 grams with the battery. Now I would say usually about 19 grams is the sweet spot for these, so it's a little bit heavier than some of the others, but it's not bad at all and it flies really nicely. So we have got a bind button on the receiver which is accessible from this canopy, so you don't have to take the canopy off. There is just like a little button there. However, it comes already bound to this transmitter. Now this transmitter is on an auto bind sequence, so if you press the bind button there and then turn the transmitter on, it will auto bind. There's no bind button on here. And then we've got 2 other buttons. So we have got the first button which changes the VTX channel, and there's a couple of lights on there, and you're given a manual that tells you the light sequence of the different frequencies. So as I say, it's a 16 channel VTX and it's pretty nice. And this is the antenna for the VTX, so just a little copper wire. And I think that is the only thing lacking with this model is really the reception that you get on the FPV. It's fine for about 80 meters though, I have to say. We have the usual tiny whoop ducts and propellers there as well. And then let's see what else you get in the lunchbox. So just like the Tiny 7, we've got 3 different canopies and 3 different types of propellers. We've got a propeller remover, this is the instructions, some spare bands and grommets, etc. for the flight control, so you can take the canopy off. We have just these 2 screws here. And then we have this awesome charger. So this is the same charger that came with the Tiny 7. So you use the 2mm here for the Tiny 7 and then the 1.25 pitch for the Tiny 6. We have some switches on here which switches between 0.5 amp and 0.25. So if you actually want to charge these batteries at 2C, then you can. So you can't do that with the Tiny 7. So you can charge the batteries a little bit faster. The only thing I would say about this is just look at these little connectors. They are fairly brittle, but we have some LEDs on here that light up and then they go out once they're charged. You can plug it into a USB 2 or you can plug it into a 2 to 4S, as it says there, on a XT60, which is really nice. And that is everything in the package. So let's talk a little bit more about the transmitter. So as I say, it came in mode 2, but what I did was I took the back off, just 4 screws there, and I switch the pots over. So this is the Futaba system, so it's using the same configuration as FlySky, so it's AETR, so aileron, elevator, throttle and rudder. And then on here there is channels 1 to 4 marked on like another sort of JST style pin. So what I did was, like I say, I reversed the pots over and then switched over the little connectors so they were in the correct channel. And then, as this is a repurposed transmitter, you see the original transmitter had a little panel here with little reverse switches on. However, they haven't been put on the front of this, but the circuitry is still there. So when you take the back off, we have got some jumpers which reverses the channels. Of course, because I'm reversing the pots, I need to reverse a couple of the channels because the throttle will be backwards, etc. So if you want to take a look at the shorts that I have done, then you can flip this over to mode 1, or you could play around with the shorts and change it to any mode that you want to. So another thing that I did is the transmitter comes with one of these battery cases there that takes 4 AA's. However, you can just unplug this and put a LiPo in. So it comes with this connector, and first of all I thought it was just a normal Futaba connector, but it's not directional, and it's too small for my LiPo to fit into it, but this does fit into it. So I desoldered this and just put a normal Futaba servo connector on there. This original one does still fit, but I can now use a Luminaire LiPo battery that is designed for the Taranis, but this one also fits in there as well, so that's pretty nice. So more about the transmitter. So it actually does have a trainer port which is connected as well, so you could use it with a simulator if you used one of those 22-in-1 connectors. There's no trainer switch, so you can't use it as a master buddy box, but you could use it as a slave. And then we have these 2 switches on here. Now out of the box, like I say, it is bound to the Tiny 6, and this is set up as your modes. And the switch is actually reversed as well, so I think it was just set up to have angle mode on here, and then arming was on the rudder, but I've gone into Betaflight and changed it so that it arms on this switch here. So it comes with Betaflight version 3.01, which is a fairly old version. However, they probably all have different versions on them depending on, you know, the date that they were built, so I wouldn't read too much into that. So another thing I want to talk about is the failsafe. So the transmitter does have a failsafe, but you can't adjust it. So its failsafe reduces the throttle to 0 when you turn the transmitter off, but if you have motor stop turned off, then it will not disarm and the motors will continue to spin. So if you say have a failsafe and it lands in grass and the motors continue to spin, you may burn a motor out or a FET. So out of the box it does come with motor stop turned on, which means when you're at 0 throttle then the motors don't spool up, and then as you throttle up they do spool up. So it's probably best to keep this one like that. Otherwise, if you have a failsafe, you may end up burning something out. So if you're in acro mode, that means you won't have any control at 0 throttle. I don't like that, so I have risked it, and I didn't have any control problems with this at all. It was absolutely rock solid for just flying around here. But if you do plan on flying this far away and may potentially get a failsafe, then you may want to have motor stop on. So this is the manual that you are given with it, and you can see the light combination there, which tells you the frequency that you've landed on. Also shows you how to flash the latest Betaflight. I don't think there's any board alignment, and as I say, already set up for S-Bus, ready to go straight out of the box. And then we have some Chinese writing on the back as well. Okay, so let's see if I can fly this one outside, starting off in angle mode. Now you can only really do this on a very calm day, and it is a calm day today, very rare, quite dull though. It'll be raining soon, the calm before the storm no doubt. But these things are actually really nice to fly in calm weather outside. A load of midges flying around. Yeah, look at that, really nice, quite relaxing. But I'm in angle mode, so if I try acro, that will probably change. Do I dare acro? Why not? Just make sure that I give myself a lot of height if I want to do a flip or something. Oh, it doesn't like that. Yeah, I think the Tiny 7 recovered a little bit better than this one. I don't know, it's hard to tell. To make sure that you give it loads of throttle on the recovery, but if you give it too much, then it sort of goes into a stall like that. That's full throttle. Oh, is it going to hit the ground? There we go. Yeah, so I gave it too much throttle then. Have to get it just right. Try again. There we go. Sort of. Probably none of that is going to show up on the camera, because this thing is so tiny. Tiny is in the name. And just the smallest amount of breeze could probably knock it. And I'm feeling it here, and there's literally no wind at all. But it's cool, I like it. Pretty stable. Right, let's do a landing and do some FPV with it. So this is some footage taken from my Fat Shark HD3s, and I do think you suffer a little bit with the reception, but I don't know what the answer to that is, because to have this form factor and have it so lightweight and crash proof, then you can't really have a cloverleaf on the top. There obviously are models out there like the Ishin range that do have cloverleafs on there, but you definitely pay the price in a crash. One thing I really like about this, just watch this, the thing is just so nimble and really controllable. I didn't touch the PIDs at all. They are the stock Betaflight PIDs, but like I say, version 3.01, so I think the D is at about 22, something like that. It flew absolutely smooth with those PIDs, so really impressed with that. Just a little bit of breakup as you get away from yourself, but no problems with the control range whatsoever. You can see again as I go over myself, there's a little bit of breakup. One thing I did figure out is you can do flips with this, and what you have to do is keep the throttle at the same position. Don't let off the throttle or try and give it more throttle when it recovers. It likes to have the throttle in exactly the same place when you do the maneuver, and then you don't lose much height and it doesn't go into one of its crazy stalls and yaw, etc. that it likes to do. So yeah, you can actually fly this acro, but I'm still not sure about trying acro indoors. I usually just fly in angle mode indoors. But yeah, I really like how precise this one is. I think is a little bit more stable than the Tiny 7, and the flight time pretty good as well, and the batteries can charge quicker if you want to charge at 2C. Of course you will wear your batteries out quicker doing that. But yeah, I think both the Tiny 7 and the Tiny 6 are good models. Of course the Tiny 6 is a little bit smaller, and the flight time is about the same, about 3 minutes 30 to 4 minutes depending on how crazy you're flying it. And as you can see here, I'm able to get at least 80 meters range with the video, so yeah, I was pretty impressed with that. Anyways, I'm gonna leave you with some flying. I'm gonna do some indoor flying as well as outdoor, so don't worry about that. I set my Tiny Whoop course up indoors and had a lot of fun with that. I'll put a link in the description if you wish to get the RTF version. Really like the transmitter, I think it's good, so yeah, can recommend that. So as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.
Gave you too much, now I'm swallowed. Now I'm the fool while you're breaking rules. Dangerous path that I follow. Oh, go on, just do what you do. And it bleed for you, cry for you, oh, oh. Let me bleed. As I bleed for you, cry for you, oh, oh. Let me bleed. Let me pain seems to follow like a shadow, dark and cold to the touch. Am I insane not to let go? Oh, go on, just do what you do. And it hurts as I bleed.